Can you tell us a little bit about the mission of the ECDC? What's your purpose here?
The mission, our mission is to help refugees build a sustainable, happy, and successful life in their new community.
And what are some of the ways you go about making this happen for them?
We operate programs, resettlement programs, such as the reception and placement program that provides core services, including reception from the airport, provision of housing, utility assistance, cash assistance, referrals to health screening and health services available in the area, ESL classes, and employment services, as well as economic development services such as the IDA, Individual Development Account program. We have this program since last year, and we have been able to help refugees who are at work build or own assets through a matched savings program.
That's great.
These are some of the things we do. We provide them cultural orientation as well, a little after arrival, the second day, third day. We also provide them transportation services for the first month or so, interpretation services, because they come from very different countries and they not all of them speak English.
Good. And you mentioned that some of them, they get caseworkers that continue to help them progress and develop, correct?
Right. We provide case management.
Case management, very good.
Until they become self-sufficient.
Oh, so it just
self-sufficiency is, in other words, one of our objectives.
Very good. Can you talk about how the community center is funded?
We are funded partly through federal government grants, in particular the Department of Health and Human Services, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is an arm of the Department of Health and Human Services, provides funding for our matching grant program, which is an employment program, 3 months employment program, helping clients with their employment needs. Wilson Fish program, which we subcontract from the Catholic Charities of Southern Nevada. That's also an employment-oriented program. We provide them social services. We provide them employment services under the Wilson Fish program. There is also a preferred community program. Vegas is considered as one of the preferred communities for resettling refugees, mainly due to the employment opportunities prior the recession, let's say, and relatively so, still so. I mean, every place is hit by the recession. However, refugees still find employment in Vegas. Not as many as before, but nevertheless.
Is that the primary reason why so many refugees do come here? Is the promise of work, or why Las Vegas? Why do so many refugees come to Las Vegas?
Refugees come to Las Vegas in several ways. First, because they have U.S. ties in Las Vegas, living in Las Vegas. By U.S. ties, I mean their relatives, their close relatives, close friends who came earlier and who have established their lives in Las Vegas, and they could help them through the resettlement integration process. This is one way this is one reason why they come to Vegas. The other reason is when refugees come to Vegas, not through their ties, not because they have ties, but they have to come here because of capacity. We have the capacity to help refugees resettle in Las Vegas. So every place gets some of some of the refugees through a national allocation system in Washington, D.C. Every resettlement agency meets to decide who goes where. And these numbers are assigned according to resettlement capacity.
Very good. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How large is the refugee population here in Las Vegas, and what are some of the primary conflict areas that they're coming from?
Right. Well, I can't tell you the exact number of refugees who have been resettled in Las Vegas during the past, but I can tell you how many refugees the African Community Center has resettled so far since its establishment back in 2003. We have successfully resettled over 1,600 refugees. These past years, we have been resettling an average of 350 refugees. Next year, we plan to resettle 400.
All right. Berihun, what is a refugee by definition?
A refugee is a person who can prove with well-founded reasons that he or she is persecuted by her government or his government for reasons of ethnic belongingness, religious belongingness, or political thoughts.
Let's talk about the bravery that these female refugees have to have.
Well, even though the women remain to be a minority among the combatants or the perpetrators of war, they are the ones to suffer from the greatest harm. They can go under systematic and unbelievable forms of sexual violence aimed at gaining political objectives or military objectives. And during the conflicts, when the infrastructures fall apart, women are among the first to be affected. They have to keep the family together. They have to give care to the wounded, and they can even turn to sexual exploitation in order to keep the family together. They have to go through all this, and then they have to flee the country and go to a neighboring country, to a refugee camp, live in those refugee camps with extremely unsuitable and unhealthy conditions, with the minimum amount of food for survival for up to 10 years, 12 years before they get here. No medical care, no nutritious food for them, nothing, no counseling for all kinds of war trauma they have been through in the refugee camps. They just sit there. They make them sit there with a minimum amount of assistance from UNHCR or from the hosting country. But when they come here, they would have gone through a lot. They would have been complaining about a number of diseases. They would have been complaining about diseases for their kids. And they still have to learn English, to be informed about the new society, and to find a job, become self-sufficient, and then carry on with their life here.
Do you find that many of the women are able to bring their families with them, or do they generally come alone? What is that situation?
Some come with their families. those fortunate. Others will have to wait until they are joined by members of their families who would be waiting still in the refugee camps or in the country of origin.
I know that one of the female refugees that I'm going to interview here today, she is actually not going to show her face.
Right.
We're actually going to disguise her identity.
Right.
Can we talk about why it is? I mean, is she afraid?
Quite understandably, I haven't asked her why, but I would assume she has a security problem for her relatives back home, for her friends. If somebody looks at her face, they may take revenge against her relatives, her beloved ones. So that, I guess, might be the reason why she did it.
What are the long-term goals for female refugees now living in Las Vegas? What is it that you hope that they achieve over the long term?
Over the long term, I want them to become, apart from becoming self-sufficient, I want them to participate at all levels of the American society, without exceptions. I want them to be empowered by the relatively more favorable laws that this country offers, that the freedoms that are offered, that the liberty that many Americans take for granted. So this is what I wish for them.
Very nice.
I want them to achieve their dreams, and this is the place to do it.
Absolutely. Why should the people that are seeing this segment on TV, why should they personally be concerned about female refugees here in Las Vegas?
Yeah, it could be us, you know. It could be me. It could be, that's the way, in particular, the women audience should think, as well as the men. It could be my sister, it could be my mom, that has to go through all this. And it's a coincidence that we are here. We might be born here. We never had to go through all this. And these people come here because they couldn't enjoy freedom in their lands, in their society, in the previous society. Not for search of jobs, as many think, or to take American jobs, or create trouble, anything of that sort. There are many stereotypes that are around, but these people have to go through a lot of suffering and human suffering, violation of their rights. They come here dreaming that this is the place for them on earth where they can realize their life dreams. So America is also the land of immigrants and refugees. This is how America was founded, and America has committed itself to help refugees and to assist them to realize their dreams.
Why is it that women are so oftentimes targeted in conflict areas? Why have they become targets?
Women are not empowered in those, in most traditional societies, and there are inequalities between the genders, and they are not equally represented among the combatants, among the positions of power, decision-making process. So that's why they are unarmed. They are peacemakers because of this fact, because conflict would bring them a lot of horror and suffering, for themselves and for their children. I think that's basically why they have to go through all this.
And what kind of ways do they seek out peace in their homelands, either while they're still there or once they come to the United States?
Well, given the circumstances, they do anything they can. Sometimes ugly things, such as, exposing themselves to sexual exploitation to save lives. They have to save their families' lives. They have to do things that, reduce the possibilities of further conflict, further war, further bloodshed. They do everything they can, directly or indirectly, to avert further loss of lives, further loss of people and materials.
This is the last question I have for you. Do you think that the issue of women's rights, women refugees' rights, do you think that it's gaining ground? Do you see it improving and being addressed more, say, in the United Nations and in government as a whole?
Absolutely. Well, the International Human Rights Convention was signed back in 1951 in Geneva, and this convention recognized women's rights in general as part of human rights. However, special emphasis was not given to women's rights as related to conflicts, conflict resolution, peace building, etc., until 2000. Back in 2000, when the United Nations passed a resolution, I think it was called Resolution 1325, which addresses the situation of women in armed conflict and calls for their participation at all levels of decision making and peace building. That was a landmark resolution. And then later on there were other resolutions, Resolution 1820, which calls for an end to sexual violence and impunity. That was in 2008. And another one is called Resolution 1960, provides for an accountability system, how to track the perpetrators of sexual violence. This has really made a change at the international level to bring up women's as related to peace, war and peace on the international platform.